Hello, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of Uncanny Oddities. So, tonight we're going to be diving into the missing scientists and anti-gravity technology. So, I have been told that we have to be careful. We agreed, as a group, we agreed not to discuss politics, so I have to be careful about how, far into this I go. But we're going to dive into it together, and we're going to see if we can find out what has happened to all these missing scientists. Now, the reason I included anti-gravity technology is because I personally, me as an individual, Stephen, I believe that a lot of this missing scientist stuff could definitely be related to anti-gravity technology. But we're not trying to theorize or conspiracize here, so let's just get right into it. So I've got a list of 14 different scientists that people believe are related to all the stuff happening right now and all the cases of everyone going missing. So we're going to start with Amy Eskridge. And she was, which is why I put anti-gravity technology in the top. She was researching anti-gravity technology when she, you know, got to be careful what we say because we're on YouTube, you know. But Amy Eskridge's work and death have become a central part of the growing investigation into these missing scientists. So it says right here that she was focused on anti-gravity technology and advanced propulsion systems. She co-founded and led two key organizations, the Institute for Exotic Science, which was a public benefit corporation she described as an international research institute specializing in propulsion, quantum gravity, and material science. And also Holocron LLC, which was a company she co-founded with her father, retired NASA engineer Richard Eskridge. Its specialties included superconductors, gravitomagnetism, and high voltage pulsed power. Now, a minute ago, before I started this video, I was watching a YouTube video that she had done that people had recorded from when she was in Alabama doing a speech about anti-gravity, and she went through a bunch of different types of anti-gravity technologies and devices, including a 1973 amendment, which was when they made legislation so that anti-gravity technology could only be used in military applications. Yeah, military applications. Very interesting that it could only be used there and not to, I don't know, destroy the oil industry or anything, anything to mess with their money. They couldn't let anything mess with their money, but whatever. So, in a 2018 presentation, Eskridge and her father detailed historical and contemporary gravity modification experiments, including claims about black projects developing triangular anti-gravity craft like the TR-3B, which I have personally seen. And we'll just leave it at that. Her work was largely independent of major government agencies, though she stated in a 2020 interview that she needed NASA approval to publicly disclose her foundational work on anti-gravity. So over time, as she continued to do her research and, revealed what she felt that she was able to, to the public, what she felt she could reveal without getting herself in too much trouble, In the months leading up to her death, she reported escalating threats and harassment. She claimed to be the target of a directed energy weapon, specifically a device she and a colleague identified as an RF K-band emitter, powered by car batteries in an SUV. She shared photos and videos showing burns and lesions on her hands, stating, "My hands have been burned as I've been typing." Retired British intelligence officer Frank Milburn, whom she contacted for help, concluded she did not commit that and that she was the victim of a campaign to debilitate and terrorize her. She did not do anything to herself. I think YouTube will accept that way of wording it. Hello, James. Good to see you. Glad you made it tonight. We're digging into the scientists and doing a very deep dive on what they were about, what they were studying, and maybe see if we can figure out what their connections were and why they're disappearing. And I've only recently started looking into this over the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks myself, but there is a lot to dig into here. So I figured we could dig into it together right here on the live stream. But what was really interesting about Eskridge is she said, "If you see any report that I did something to myself, I most definitely did not," which has fueled a lot of these rumors that, she did not do this to herself. The FBI is now spearheading an investigation into a cluster of at least 11 deaths and disappearances of scientists with ties to sensitive U.S. research, with Eskridge's case being a prominent part of this review. While her father maintains that her death was not suspicious, politicians and investigators, including Congressman Eric Burleson, have cited significant evidence that she was targeted. And as we stated a minute ago, she claimed that she was being gang stalked, and she said there were SUVs outside of her house and everything else. So she definitely, regardless of whether you believe that she did anything to herself or not, she definitely had a lot of strange things going on in her life, one way or the other. So that was the first one. Next up, we have Michael David Hicks. And this was a NASA research scientist at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL for short, who specialized in the physical properties of comets and asteroids. He worked at JPL from 1998 to 2022, contributing to major missions including DART, which was the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, Deep Space One, and the Dawn mission. Hicks held a PhD in lunar and planetary science from the University of Arizona, so once again, someone with a PhD and, very clearly highly intelligent in their field, and authored over 80 peer-reviewed scientific papers. So this person clearly knew what they were doing. They were a very large name in the scientific community, and they were, most likely well respected. I didn't keep up with them, but I can assume that having 80 peer-reviewed scientific papers, one can assume that they were well respected, if not well informed, at the very least. He passed away on July 30th, 2023, at age 59. While his death was initially unexplained, with no public cause disclosed, it has been cited in media reports as part of a broader cluster of mysterious deaths among these scientists, which have been linked to sensitive U.S. aerospace and nuclear programs. Outside of his scientific career, Hicks was also an artist and musician known for performing ukulele pieces during observing runs at Mount Palomar. He sounds like a really cool dude, just gotta say. I think if I had known him, I think we would have been friends. The ukulele's just chill, okay? It's just chill. So, some of his scientific contributions and some deeper circumstances around his death. He was a planetary scientist at the JPL from 1998 to 2022, and he earned his PhD in lunar and planetary science from the University of Arizona in 1997, with a dissertation titled "A Spectrophotometric Survey of Comets and Earth Approaching Asteroids." So basically, he was looking for asteroids. He was trying to help save the planet, And that was why he made DART and had significant contributions to other NASA missions as well, like we mentioned a minute ago. So to get a little more deeper into that, in DART, he served on the science team for the planetary for the planetary defense mission, which successfully tested the ability to alter an asteroid's trajectory by kinetic impact, which you may have a vague idea of if you watched a movie that I found on Netflix from 2019 called Don't Look Up. And, you know, okay, I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. It was basically a movie about this giant asteroid coming to Earth. It's going to destroy the whole planet. And everyone is so obsessed with their little sports games and their celebrity drama and all their gossip and all the petty little nonsense that nobody cared. Nobody cared that the world was going to be destroyed. And and the science people who tried to tell them, hey, there's an asteroid, nobody wanted to listen to them because they were like, oh, you're talking about something intelligent. We ain't got no time for that. We got to deal with this, celebrity drama and, these people and all this. And I'm just like, yep, I can definitely relate to being frustrated about that. So, anyways, little side tangent over. So, Hicks passed away on July 30th, 2023, at the age of 59 in Sunland, California. Initially, as we said a minute ago, there were no public cause of death, but eventually, later on, according to Los Angeles County Coroner, Hicks died of arteriosclerotic cardiovascular disease, which in layman's terms, my terms as well, is hardening of the arteries, with morbid obesity listed as a significant contributing condition. The manner of death was ruled natural, though the case remains officially open in coroner records. Despite the medical explanation, Hicks' death gained renewed attention due to his association with all these other JPL, Monica Reza, also a JPL, and William McCasland, who we're also going to speak about here in a minute, who worked at the Air Force Research Lab. These cases have prompted calls for investigation from members of Congress and former intelligence officials, though no evidence of foul play has been found in Hicks's case. Now, that's what we've been able to find about Hicks, so we're going to move on to the next person. And next up, we have Frank Maywald. Apologies. He was a principal researcher at JPL, once again, another one from JPL, specializing in high-frequency electronics. I've been talking about frequencies a lot lately. Everything is frequencies. You can even encode frequencies into data, as we mentioned on our last episode. So lots of interesting things here. So terahertz components and remote sensing instruments. Born in Germany and educated at the University of Cologne, he joined JPL in 1999 and managed significant projects, including the SBG-VSWIR instrument, AMR-C, Jason 3, and Sentinel 6. Maywald died on the 4th of July, 2024, in Los Angeles at the age of 61. His death is frequently cited in reports regarding these mysterious deaths and disappearances of scientists with ties to the nuclear research programs and deeply held, space aeronautic research. His cause of death has not been disclosed, and reports indicate that no autopsy was performed. Now that's interesting. Why would they not bother to perform an autopsy on someone who's already had a mysterious death? You would think the first thing they would want to do would perform an autopsy, unless they were hiding something. But no conspiracies tonight. Sorry. So NASA has not issued a public comment regarding his death, and as for his professional legacy, as many of these other scientists, he was involved with JPL, and he got an award for outstanding individual contributions and held over 80 publications in microwave engineering and space instrumentation. So here we go again, another one with a lot of publications written. That's interesting. So it seems like a lot of these people were very deep into their personal research in their own interested fields. He is often grouped with these other researchers because they keep raising questions about sensitive space and defense technologies. Now, for his professional expertise in research, he was a leading expert in high frequency electronics and remote sensing, with a career centered on developing instruments for space based Earth and planetary science. As we mentioned earlier, he contributed to the Sentinel 6, Jason 3, and SBG VSWIR. Now, to dig a little bit deeper into the terahertz and microwave technology, which he was working on, his technical expertise lay in pushing the boundaries of terahertz and microwave engineering. His work, documented in over 70 publications, focused on designing and fabricating terahertz frequency multiplier chains using planar Schottky diodes. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, to be completely honest with you. Enabling coherent spectroscopy sources at frequencies up to 2.75 terahertz. That's a lot of terahertz. I like it. Developing components for instruments like the Herschel Space Observatory's Hi-Fi and the Juno mission's Microwave Radiometer, or MWR for short. Now, the Hi-Fi is interesting because it makes me think there's a video game called Hi-Fi Rush. I've never played it, but it's a thing that exists. So that's what pops into my head. But anyways, it's high frequency, I believe. But creating high frequency circuits for detecting trace molecules in space, which are crucial for identifying potential biosignatures on other worlds. In June 2023, a year before his death, he was the lead researcher on a significant breakthrough in mass spectrometry. This work had the potential to enable future space missions to definitively detect chemical signs of life on moons like Europa and Enceladus. So that's all I've got for him. So it seems like a lot of these scientists were involved with technologies that would let us more easily explore space and perhaps discover alien life. Interesting. Anthony Chavez is who we've got next. Who Anthony Chavez was a 78-year-old retired construction foreman at Los Alamos National Laboratory. He vanished from his home on the 37th Street in Los Alamos, New Mexico, around May 4th, 2025. He was last seen leaving on foot with his wallet, keys, phone, no, without his wallet, keys, phone, or cigarettes. His 2024 gray Acura Integra remained locked in the driveway, and there were no signs of forced entry or struggle. So, dude just left his phone and all of his identifying, things at home, walked out the door, and just disappeared. Now, there is a theory that I've seen circulating around that maybe, not all, but maybe some of these scientists were affected by some sort of directed energy weapons or mind control devices because their families say that, this one and William McCaslin, who we're going to discuss in more detail later, some of these people walked away and just seemingly, like brain dead almost. Like they didn't know what they were doing. They just left everything behind and walked away. Now, we have to wonder, why would they do that? Why would they leave their phones behind and everything else if they were not intentionally doing that? There's got to be some sort of reason why they were intentionally leaving their phones behind and all sorts of identifying things that could have, told people who they were. His friend, Carl Buckland, stated Chavez was active and in regular contact, and it was very unusual for him to be out of touch for more than a day. As I said, a lot of these people, this was very unusual activity for them. So we need to discover, were they intentionally trying to be secretive? And if so, why? And even deeper, why were multiple of them trying to be secretive. Just something to keep in mind. Chavez was often described as a stable, healthy, and intellectually engaged individual, making his sudden disappearance highly out of character. His last known banking activity ceased around May 5th, one day after he disappeared. Keep that in mind. It said he disappeared around May 4th, but his banking activity ceased around May 5th, and there have been no confirmed sightings since. So, what was he doing? Maybe they knew about plans like Project Bluebeam and got their head. Yep, maybe. I like it, James. That's a good idea. Because, trying not to theorize too much, but about Project Bluebeam, since you brought it up for me and gave me an excuse to talk about it, um, it looks like Project Bluebeam has shifted. Maybe instead of staging a false alien invasion, they say aliens are angels and do that. Because on page 42 of the UFO files, there is a ophanum. And it was very interesting to see at first, but when I got home on Friday, I had a little more time to actually look into it, and there was, unfortunately, the version of the photo that I'd seen earlier in the day was cropped, and the photo on the actual war.gov website has a Google Gemini AI watermark in the bottom right-hand corner of the photo. So, who knows what to believe. But yes, James, you're absolutely right. You told us we've been working on this. We've known about this for years now. And, it's finally happening. And they're doing such a poor job of it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. They're just doing a very poor job of it. It's entertaining though, because I mean, look, one more thing, and then I'll get off the whole Project Bluebeam thing. I promise. One more thing, and I'm gonna say this very casually, and then just continue on. If you believe that if you believe in the UFO files that have been released by the federal government on Friday, the federal government released UFO files claiming that we have had catgirls since the 90s. Yep, just that's a thing that happened in the UFO files. Okay. Now, the Los Alamos Police Department launched an exhaustive investigation, including hiking local trails such as Pueblo Canyon, reviewing surveillance footage, using cadaver dogs, and following up on tips. The case was formally reported on May 8th, 2025, so that would have been about 4 days after he disappeared. As of April 2026, the case remains open with no breakthroughs. But if that was 4 days after the disappearance, I know legally you're required to wait at least 24 hours before you can legally report someone missing. And my understanding is that after 48 hours, the chances of finding those people alive drop significantly. So my question is, why did they wait 4 days before reporting someone is missing? You're right, James. I agree with you on that one. But the question is, why would they wait 4 days to report someone is missing? Unless it was intentional. But I don't know. I'm just asking questions here. You make up your own mind about that. I'm just presenting facts and asking my own theoretical questions. The LAPD has stated they have no information linking his disappearance to his work at LENL and initially did not believe he was endangered, but they continue to seek public assistance. Now, there is a connection to a broader pattern here because of all the other people that have been working on this kind of technology and disappearing. Now, as of May 2026, Anthony Chavez remains missing. The case has drawn attention from the White House as well as federal agencies, including the FBI and the Department of Energy, though no official connection between the cases has been confirmed. according to the official story. But as you can see here, with what we're going through, we're starting to piece together a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff that's starting to link together. A lot of these scientists were working for similar institutions on similar technology, went missing in similar ways. So next up, we have Monica Reza, who we mentioned briefly a minute ago. And James says Catgirls equals cataclysm. Yes, you're right. I think they're going to try to stage a fake biblical apocalypse at this point. I did hear a rumor, as I said, a rumor that they destroyed some sort of military technology from the United States. And I'm trying not to get political here, so I won't say where that technology was located to avoid getting political. But apparently, when that infrastructure was destroyed, the Euphrates River was no longer dried up and started flowing again. Just think of that as you will. Not trying to be political or anything like that, just stating something that I found vaguely interesting. Now, back to Monica Reza, who disappeared on Mount Waterman, and I don't have many details on this. I was only able to get like a paragraph on this one. But what I was able to get is right here. This investigation draws on the timeline discussions and firsthand accounts shared in the subreddit, press conferences, and open source records. Covers directional contradictions, the scent dog dead end. There is apparently some sort of beanie anomaly, information locked down by search organizers, and a find a grave memorial. So this is just telling us about how she went missing. Let me see if I can pull something else up. Okay, here we go. So, on June 22nd, 2025, a 60-year-old woman waved at her hiking companion on a ridgeline in the Angeles National Forest. She was 30 feet behind him. Bright red shirt, green hiking pants, clear weather. A route she hiked every week. Now, before we go any further into this, really quickly, her friend who was hiking with her has sometimes been, criticized for leaving her 30 feet behind, but they say that she was a really good hiker, and for someone as, skilled as her, that would have been fine. It really was not that far, but I personally don't know anything about hiking, so make up your own mind how you feel about that, because some people have stated that they feel it was odd for their friend to leave them that far away, but other people have said that for her being an experienced hiker, that was normal. I don't hike, so I don't know. Anyways, back to our story. That wave is the last confirmed contact anyone had with Monica Reza. Every news outlet that covered the story ran the same framing: missing hiker, rugged terrain, check your cameras. Standard template. What none of them reported is who she actually was. Reza co invented Mandalloy, a family of nickel based superalloys now built into the engines, replacing Russian made rockets for American national security launches. Okay, that sounds pretty important. She held the patent. She spent decades as a technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne, the highest technical rank in the company, an associate fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. At some point after 2023, she moved to NASA's, wait for it, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. Now, this matters because of what happened 8 months later. On February 27th, 2026, hang on. Okay, I'm good. Retired Major General William Neal McCaslin walked out of his Albuquerque home and into the Sandia Mountain foothills. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. Left his phone, left his glasses, his wearable devices, took a gun, and his wallet. Okay, I've actually heard conflicting things about the wallet at this point. I've read a lot of other stuff that said he left his wallet. So I'm explicitly asking you on your own to do more research on William McCaslin's story, specifically revolving around the wallet, because as of now, I have seen conflicting reports, and he has not been seen since. So where did he go? And why do all these people involved with JPL and NASA keep disappearing? In The Ghost General, we mapped McCaslin's career. He commanded the Air Force Research Lab from 2011 to 2013, overseeing the $4.4 billion portfolio that funded the most sensitive aerospace research in the country. And since I said we, to be specific, this is an article I'm reading from the Sentinel.network. So when I said we, I meant the Sentinel.network when they mapped McCaslin's career. Just wanted to make that clear. Not trying to take credit for other people's work. Just trying to get to the bottom of what's going on here. So that portfolio funded Monica Reza's work. Okay, now we're starting to see a connection here. The FBI wanted to say there's no connection, but William McCaslin, one of the other missing scientists, was directly responsible for funding another missing scientist, Monica Reza's work. No connections? Really? Really? Not trying to get political. Her alloy is in the engines his budget was actively building. We did not expect the general's trail to lead here. So the sweet spot. American rocket designers. Where am I? Hold on. Okay, American rocket designers had a problem for decades. The Soviet could build oxygen-rich staged combustion engines. We couldn't. Not because we didn't understand the physics, because we couldn't find a metal that survived the environment. And, oh, hold up. Find out what Jack Palance was into, and you'll discover a lot and what he and Aleister Crowley did in 1947. I actually don't know who Jack Palance was, but I did know about Aleister Crowley, so I might need to try to look into that at some point. That's a good tip. Thank you, James. I'll try to remember to look into that later. So in 1999, the Air Force Research Lab started putting money in, and NASA followed. The lab scale alloy became two production variants, Mondaloy 100 and Mondaloy 200, different chemistries for different heat and pressure ranges. You can cast it, forge it, 3D print it. 20 years of materials qualification, component testing, and integration work. Monica led all of it. So that's why they got rid of her. I know this is getting kind of long, so I'm skipping a couple of paragraphs. The hydrocarbon boost technology demonstrator, the Air Force's program for a reusable 250,000 pound thrust engine, uses Mondaloy. Both programs, Air Force funded, both flowing through AFRL. The patent is public record. US 2010 /0266442A1. Burn resistant and high tensile strength metal alloys. The California State LA Launchpad 2021 page documented who she was. Technical Fellow for Materials and Processes Engineering at Aerojet Rocketdyne, Associate Fellow of the AIAA, 30 years leading R&D teams, Columbia for her BA and BS in Metallurgical Engineering, UCLA for her MS in Material Science, born and raised in Los Angeles. So we're getting into some stuff here. Okay, James said Jack Palance founded JPL. Interesting, especially interesting with an association with someone like Aleister Crowley. So let's see. Okay, her mentor, Hardwick, later moved to AFRL in Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's a big one in the UFO community. By 2005, she was leading all materials research for advanced gas turbine engines. Her group, the AFRL Materials Directorate, was the government half of the Mondeloy Partnership. Reza built the alloy at Aerojet Rocketdyne. Hardwick's team qualified it at Wright-Patterson. Two women, two institutions, one program. When McCaslin took command of AFRL in May 2011, Hardwick was still there. Reza's contracts were still active. All three of them were on the same program at the same time. How did the FBI say there's no connection? How did they say there's no connection? Hardwick retired in 2012 after a stage 4, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word on YouTube, diagnosis. She continued mentoring through the AFRL Emeritus program, and she died on January 5th, 2014. After Hardwick's death, Reza said publicly, I hope she understood that my accomplishments and success are, in large part, due to her. Nobody outside the propulsion world knew her name. That was fine. She made the metal that makes the engines work. So it seems like this Mondeloy stuff is a pretty big deal in all these people that are going missing. I think we may have found a little hint. We need to dig deeper into this Mondeloy stuff and see what they all knew about that and what it actually does and how important it is. Because if it can survive such extreme heat and temperatures, it could easily be used to make things like bombs and nuclear weapons and just, some stuff like that. Next, we have Melissa Cassius, a 53-year-old administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory. And she has been missing since June 26, 2025, in Taos County, New Mexico. She is classified as a missing endangered person by the New Mexico State Police after last seen walking eastbound on Highway 518 near Talpa with a backpack. Cassius dropped her husband off at work, returned home to work remotely because she forgot her ID badge, and later dropped off lunch for her adult daughter, Sierra Cassius. Upon returning home, Sierra found Melissa's car, wallet, and phones in the house. Both phones had been wiped to factory settings. But here's the other thing, because I've been listening to podcasts about this all day at work as well. And here's the other thing. Sierra, her daughter, when she came home and, found all this, she thought it was strange, but she just shrugged it off. Because if she had forgotten her ID badge, how did she get into work in the first place? Just something to think about. But anyways, in the investigation status, New Mexico State Police report no breakthroughs in the case. Investigators are exploring both the possibility that she left of her own volition and that foul play occurred, noting that neither has been ruled out. As for the physical description, Cassius is described as a Hispanic woman, 5'4", approximately 125 pounds, with brown hair and eyes. She was last seen wearing a light-colored shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes, and has tattoos including a dragon on her right ankle and a bow and arrow on her left arm. Her husband, Mark, and daughter, Sierra, believe she may have left due to significant stress, while her parents and siblings suspect foul play. And they only found out about the significant stress recently. From what I've heard, they only found out about the stress very, very recently, and they had no idea about it previously. So that's another thing that seems a bit strange to me. The family has offered a $5,000 to $7,000 reward for information leading to her safe return. So let's get into the timeline. So as for the timeline, she was last seen on surveillance footage walking eastbound on Highway 518 in Talpa at approximately 2:18 p.m., wearing a backpack, light-colored shirt, jeans, and tennis shoes. This was about 45 minutes after she dropped off lunch for her daughter, Sierra Cassius, at a cafe in Taos Plaza. That morning, she told her husband, Mark Cassius, she had forgotten her security badge and would work from home. However, her family believes she may have swiped in at the lab, suggesting she lied about forgetting her badge. Remember when I said it was strange because they were like, how would you get into work in the morning without your badge? Which you claim to have left at home, but you didn't come home until the afternoon. It, something doesn't add up here. Now, there was also a disturbing discovery. When Sierra returned home, she found the front door locked, her mother's car in the driveway, and her mother's keys and work phone on the kitchen table. Inside Melissa's office, her personal phone, wallet, purse, and a check she was supposed to deposit were all left behind. Now, crucially, both of Melissa's phones had been wiped to factory settings, erasing recent data and communications. This detail has fueled intense speculation as it requires knowledge of the device's password. And many people assume that she did it and say, what was she trying to hide? What sort of information or data was she trying to hide? But I have an alternative theory. I wonder, maybe she didn't wipe the phones. Maybe someone else was able to wipe the phone because she had information on her phone that they didn't want getting out. I'll just leave it at that. Now, there are no breakthroughs, according to the New Mexico State Police, and they are actively considering all possibilities, including that she left voluntarily due to personal or financial stress, or that foul play was involved. Nothing has been ruled out, and so the community, including the archery community she was part of, have organized large-scale search parties. Search and rescue dogs have also been deployed, but no definitive leads have been found. A pair of shoes matching her description were reportedly found in the Carson National Forest, but DNA analysis is pending. The family has offered the $5,000 to $7,000 reward for information leading to her safe return. So, we got a bunch of people related to anti-gravity and heat-resistant metal technology that are starting to disappear. Sounds like all the stuff these people have been working on would definitely be related to space travel and weapons of mass destruction in one way or another. Next up, we have Joshua LeBlanc. Joshua was a 29-year-old aerospace electrical engineer at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, where he worked on sensitive nuclear propulsion projects, including the Space Nuclear Propulsion Instrumentation and Control Program and the Demonstration Rocket for Agile Cislunar Operations, or DRACO project. He died on July 22, 2025, when his Tesla crashed into a guardrail and trees, bursting into flames in Walker County, Alabama. His body was burned beyond recognition and was identified days later through forensic analysis. His death is under active investigation as part of a broader federal review into at least 11, it's up to 13 now, unexplained deaths and disappearances of scientists and engineers in aerospace, nuclear, and defense research since 2022. The FBI is coordinating with federal agencies, including the White House, to determine if there is a pattern or potential national security threat. Now, some of the key anomalies in LeBlanc's case include that he was reported missing by his family after failing to come to work, which was uncharacteristic. He left behind his phone, wallet, and dog at his apartment. And the data from his Tesla's Sentry mode revealed the vehicle was parked at Huntsville International Airport for approximately 4 hours before the crash. Time and location not accounted for in his known plans. So basically, they're saying dude was just randomly sitting in his Tesla in an airport for no apparent reason and told nobody about it for like 4 hours. While authorities have officially classified the incident as a traffic accident, the unusual circumstances and his role in advanced propulsion research have fueled public speculation and a formal probe into whether these incidents are isolated or part of a coordinated effort targeting individuals with access to sensitive U.S. technology. Well, I think it's pretty clear at this point that they're all related into some sort of advanced propulsion research. Next up, we have Steven Garcia, who is a missing government contractor. A 48-year-old government security contractor disappeared from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico on August 28, 2025. He was last seen on surveillance footage leaving on foot around 9 a.m. local time, wearing a green camouflage shirt and carrying only a handgun and a bottle of water. He left, here we go again, he left behind his phone, keys, wallet, and car. Why do they keep going away on foot? Maybe, just maybe, because it's easier to hide on foot. Garcia worked as a property custodian at the Kansas City National Security Campus, KCNSC, a facility that manufactures over 80% of the non nuclear components for U.S. nuclear weapons. Once again, someone working closely with advanced propulsion research and nuclear weapons. There are a lot of people working on nuclear weapons going missing, okay? That's not good. Not good. Not good. His role granted him top security clearance and an oversight of tens, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars in sensitive classified assets. His disappearance is the 10th in a growing pattern of individuals connected to U.S. nuclear or space programs who have either vanished or died under mysterious circumstances in recent years. Authorities initially suggested he may be a danger to himself, but an anonymous source familiar with his work described him as a very stable person and not suicidal, suggesting foreign espionage as a more likely scenario. His case is linked to the others, including retired Air Force General William Neal McCaslin, who disappeared under similar circumstances in February 2026, carrying only a firearm and leaving behind all other personal devices. I want to know why they're all leaving without anything. So, next up, we have Jason Thomas, a Wakefield scientist, a 45-year-old assistant director of chemical biology at Novartis, who was reported missing from Wakefield, Massachusetts on December 13th, 2025. He had been grieving the deaths of his parents, who died within an hour of each other. Yeah. His mother died, and then his father died of a broken heart within like 45 minutes, literally in his arms. On March 17th, 2026, police recovered a body from Lake Quanapawit, believed to be his. Authorities stated that no foul play is suspected. Let me read that again. On March 17th, 2026, police recovered a body from Lake Quanapawit, believed to be his. Authorities stated no foul play is suspected. They found his dead body in the lake, and they suspect no foul play is suspected. And that's all they have to say about that. Next up, we have. Oh, you're good, James. Thanks for coming to hang out. Next up, we have Nuno Loureiro. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's fun to try. Let me try one more time. Nuno Loureiro. Now, this was a Portuguese plasma physicist. He was the Hermann Feshbach Professor of Physics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. MIT. Now, if you know anything about history, you'll know MIT and SRI. And I'll just leave it at that. And he was also the director of the MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center from 2024 until his murder in 2025. On the 15th of December 2025, he was shot at his residence in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. Brookline, Massachusetts. Sorry, be specific, Brookline, Massachusetts, and died from his injuries the following day. Authorities connected his murder to Claudio Manuel Neves Valente, who was the perpetrator of the shooting at Brown University that occurred 2 days prior to Loreo's murder. So it's interesting that he just happened to be murdered by someone who had recently done a um thing like that, and you know those types of incidents are often associated with things like MK Ultra and mind control, and I'll just leave that as that. So next we have Carl Grillmere. Now this one is definitely sounds like a straight up hit. Carl Grillmere was a Canadian astronomer and astrophysicist. He was a research scientist at the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, beginning in 1997, where he studied exoplanets, galactic structure, and dark matter. Dark matter is the big one. There is something hidden in dark matter that is very important that not very many people understand yet. And that is going to be very, very dangerous when people discover the secrets of dark matter, because it would completely uproot the entire oil industry. And it's one of the keys to finding clean, free energy. He collaborated on prominent NASA telescope missions, including the Hubble Space Telescope, Spitzer Space Telescope, and the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, and discovered water on multiple exoplanets. On February 16th, 2026, Grillmere was fatally shot outside his home in Llano, an unincorporated community in Antelope Valley, California. They just randomly showed up to his house at like 6 in the morning and shot him and left. Did not rob him, nothing. So that one's pretty. Yeah. Now for the big one. Here's the big one that everyone, absolutely everyone, has been talking about. William Neil McCaslin. He was last seen on February 27th, 2026, at his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His wife, Susan Wilkerson, reported him missing later that day after finding his phone, prescription glasses, so he obviously wouldn't have been able to drive without them, and smartwatch left behind. A repairman had interacted with him around 10 a.m., and his wife returned from a medical appointment shortly after noon to find him gone. Now, the items McCaslin left behind and took with him are central to the investigation. As with all these other missing people, he did not take his phone, glasses, or wearable devices, which authorities state was unusual for him. Items reported missing include his wallet, hiking boots, a 38 caliber revolver with a leather holster, and a red backpack. A gray U.S. Air Force sweatshirt was found about 1.25 miles east of his home on March 7th, but his family has not confirmed it belongs to him. No blood was detected on the shirt in initial testing. Now, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office is leading the investigation with assistance from the FBI. The case is treated as an active missing person investigation with no evidence of foul play. A silver alert was issued due to concerns about his health, specifically mental fog and memory loss. Although investigators emphasize there is no indication he was disoriented or confused. And, if someone had some sort of information that you didn't want them telling anyone else about, wouldn't you also say that they had a mental fog or that they were mentally unstable? Just just an idea. Search efforts have involved drones, helicopters, K9 teams, and ground crews covering a vast and rugged terrain. But unseasonably warm weather has hampered infrared searches by masking heat signatures. They say like all the whole desert is just lit up and they can't tell the difference between a human and a rock because it's all so hot out there. Now, digging into his background a little bit, he is a retired U.S. Air Force Major General and aerospace engineer. He served as the commander of the Air Force Research Lab, AFRL, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio from 2011 until his retirement in 2013. In this role, he managed the Air Force's $2.2 billion science and technology program and oversaw a global workforce of approximately 10,800 personnel. Wow. Could you even imagine having 10,800 people working under you? Hey, thank you for the comment, Missing Time 420. Nice to see you. I like the name. But, I can't even imagine trying to be the boss of 10,800 people. That would be wild. His career included high level positions in space research, acquisition, and operations within the Air Force and the National Reconnaissance Office. So he was definitely a big deal. All right, we got two more. Now, this is where it starts getting really, really interesting. All right, so first, we got David Wilcock. Now, I just recently found out about him myself, honestly, but I really, really appreciate a lot of the stuff he was talking about, and we lost a good one here. David Wilcock was an American paranormal writer, media personality, and YouTuber. He was a significant figure in the disclosure movement and a regular contributor to pseudoscientific theories in popular culture media, appearing in productions made by Gaia, and he was even on Ancient Aliens. Aliens guy. Not he wasn't the aliens guy, but he was on the same show, you know. He believed himself to be in telepathic contact with extraterrestrial beings and indirectly proffered this belief as a basis for his teachings. There's something deeper going on there. Pay attention to that part. Some of his followers believe he was the reincarnation of Edgar Casey, which you can clearly see. According to his website, Divine Cosmos, he offered teachings in soul growth, ascension, and the evolution of consciousness. And that is the part that I really appreciated about him. Not trying to preach on here, but I thought he had some really good ideas. I'll just leave it at that. Now on April 18th, now here's the incident. Here's what happened. On April 18th, 2026, Wilcock expressed doubt that he would livestream a planned YouTube video, stating that he had some very intense stuff going on this weekend. He died at his residence on April 20th, 2026, at the age of 53 from a inflicted gunshot wound. His death was witnessed by law enforcement officers who had responded to an earlier 911 call he placed, and that video is up on YouTube. You can find it around. I'm not going to show that out of respect to his family and not trying to bring any more attention to that. But if you so wish, it is out there and it is available. His family later issued a statement of remembrance, acknowledging that while there were concerns about misinformation in regards to his beliefs, he was yet engaged in an eternal quest for clarity. His death ignited interest relating to the disappearance and deaths of the other scientists who were specialized in nuclear and space programs and supposedly classified projects. Supposedly. That's how they put that word in there. One day before Wilcox's death, he commented on the disappearance of the scientists. Interesting timing there. Interesting timing. In his final live stream on April 19th, which contributed to scrutiny about the circumstances of his own death, Wilcox also responded to comments about his weight loss, explaining to his live audience that he couldn't afford anymore a balanced diet and that his house was infested with rodents and insects, and he was aware that his health was at risk, but he claimed that his property was unsellable. And that was David Wilcock. Now, this last one, I have to be very, very, very brief and very careful because this is highly political, but we don't do politics here. But it's also very, very important and highly related to what is going on with the missing scientists. And I have, uh, we try not to do like conspiracy theories and we try to stick to the facts here. So, Cole Allen. If you know that name, you already know where this is headed, and you know why I have to be very careful with this. This was a 31-year-old man from Torrance, California, and he is a suspect in a particular case going on right now. He is still alive for now. For now. And he got himself into some trouble, which we will not mention here. He is a Caltech graduate with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in computer science from California State University in Dominguez Hills, 2025. He worked as a part-time tutor at C2 Education, where he was named Teacher of the Month in December 2024, and was also an independent game developer, creating physics-based games like Boredom, Bohrdom, and First Law. Look into those. Those games teach some very interesting things. I'll leave it at that. According to authorities, he sent a letter about what he was going to do before he did it, and his sister alerted the police about his particular statements involving that. And it says the device he used in this event was legally purchased within the prior 2 years. So it was purchased within the last 2 years before he did this particular event. And it's just interesting because he was also involved with certain technology related to gravity, but yeah, leave it at that. He was also involved with gravity technology and many other things. And there was a tweet on the internet back in, I believe, 2023, well before any of this happened. And it was just his name. And there are some theories surrounding that, which we will not be discussing. But I would highly recommend you look into Cole Allen and everything around him. It is very interesting. And that is what we have for our show tonight. Thank you all for coming out, hanging out with us as we dig into these missing scientists, and we definitely have a lot more stuff to think about now. So thank you, and as always, stay uncanny. We will see you next time.